Today we're going to compare the cameras on iPhone 14 Pro versus the 15 Pro and let's see if there's any huge differences. So this video is sponsored by Caseify. I've been using the cases on my iPhone 14 Pro for a while now and it's hard to find any other case company that can easily match my style. They just announced their new Ultra Bounce case, which is their strongest case they've made. It has been drop tested 260 times and it can survive up to a 32.8 feet drop. They use their EcoShock material on these cases, which helps absorb the impact, and the case feels so solid in the hands. I'll say it's a very beefy case for the people with small hands like me. But if I know I'll be going hiking or doing any activity that might break my phone, then this is the case I'll reach for. You can clearly tell this is a very protective case with the corners and even the camera lenses are protected. So I like how I can still have a stylish case while the phone is super safe. Now this is not a case I'll use every day. Most of the time I'll be using the impact case, which is slim and still good enough for everyday drops. For the clumsy people, they also have the bounce case, which is a step up in protection. Now you can still use the new case, which is perfect if you work in harsh environments like a construction worker. But personally for me, since I don't drop my phones too often, style is the first thing that comes to my mind. And then the protection afterwards. Which clearly Caseify has this down from simple basic everyday drops to very crazy drops. So if you're interested in the Caseify cases or even the new one, check out the links down below. Now onto the whole experience between these two phones. I'm going to say that a lot of the times it's going to be very similar to each other. Now you'll probably see some color shifting in terms of the white balancing. Sometimes it could be too green or too yellow, sometimes it can be too saturated, so it's not really a reoccurring thing. So from my experience, I'll say 95% of the time they look exactly alike. Now the camera sensor on iPhone 15 Pro is a little bit bigger than iPhone 14 Pro, so theoretically it should be a little bit better in terms of quality, but in terms of actually seeing them side by side, I feel like not until 15X that's when I can slightly see a difference between the two. And to really nitpick on what is the difference, I feel like for the most part is the HDR. To me, the highlights on a 15 Pro is more controlled and most likely is less overblown. Now for low light, same thing as before, majority of it is pretty similar to each other, and not until 15X or max zoom, that's when I can see a bit of a difference with the stabilization. And for the ones that really like to take telephoto pictures, I would recommend going for the iPhone 15 Pro Max this year, just because it has a better telephoto lens. So majority of the time the quality is very similar, but where you feel most upgraded is the camera experience. First is zooming all the way up at 15X, where I can see those micro jitters on the iPhone 14 Pro, but going to the 15 Pro is a lot smoother. Next is tapping on the 1X multiple times to get you different focal lengths quickly, and you can set that certain focal length as your default once you open the camera. Next is the action button, and you can map it to whatever command you want, but I feel like camera is the most useful one since I can set it to a specific mode. And for me, I'm gonna set it to video so I can get quick vlogging shots without doing too many steps. And for selfies, I feel like this is where you can see more of the difference between the color temperatures. As you can see, my skin tone is not always consistent. I feel like sometimes it's too green, sometimes it's just too orange. And I also feel like the HDR is just a little bit better on the new iPhone 15 Pro. Now for portrait mode, this is where you can clearly see the difference between the two, where the iPhone 15 Pro is a lot more saturated, the blacks are a little bit deeper, so I feel like the contrast is a bit stronger on the new iPhone 15 Pro, and that's pretty common across where I'm taking them, from indoors, outdoors, in the sun, and in the shade. So it really depends on personal preference, since the iPhone 14 Pro does look a little bit more flat. And even for video, I feel like the color temperature decides on what colors you'll see. And from the beginning during the Caseify section, I really liked how the 15 Pro does look more neutral and more realistic than the iPhone 14 Pro, where the whole image just looked too greenish. Which is something I've always been saying with a lot of my iPhone 14 Pro comparisons throughout the whole year, which you may know I'm not a huge fan of, but now looking at the iPhone 15 Pro, it does seem a bit more realistic and shows more improvement in that area. Now you cannot tap on a 1X to zoom in like the photo mode, which I wish I can do as well, but I would say the overall camera experience is very similar except for being able to shoot log on iPhone 15 Pro. Now, I feel like this is not a super interesting feature for the regular consumer, but for filmmakers, videographers, or people like me would find interest in shooting in this mode and being able to have more control of our colors in our videos. Now, even though they both look the same majority of the time, if I were to pinpoint something out, I would say I can see more in the shadows on iPhone 15 Pro. So in my opinion, if you have the iPhone 14 Pro, I don't think it's time to upgrade yet, unless you really want all the new features, the new camera experience, and USB-C. So let me know your thoughts and if you see any differences between the two. Also, if you're interested in getting any of these Caseify cases or the new Ultra Bounce case, check out my link down below for 15% off. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.